could be born in France. That doesn't mean I'm fucking French.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Fright or Flight podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a movie, the final movie in our Evil Dead season, Geraldine. I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about Evil Dead Rise.
Evil Dead Rise is probably... Oh, hi, I'm Geraldine, by the way.
And hello, I'm Frankie, the Fright of the podcast.
Yeah,
I said Fright just now. I'm the Flight.
Yeah, you're the Flight, and I'm the
Fright.
Fright.
I'm Frankie, the Flight of the podcast.
Yeah, this movie was amazing in every way.
You liked it?
It was so good.
That's interesting, Geraldine, because like we watched the Scream movies and we were like, ooh, Scream 6, are we going to like it or not?
Yeah.
Geraldine, I hate Scream 5 so much that this movie can't possibly be any good whatsoever. So I'm surprised that we have a new entry here and you did enjoy it.
I did enjoy it. I don't know. I mean, but I feel like with Scream, it's a different kind of brand that we're dealing with there. And here we are with the Evil Dead franchise, and 2013 delivered. The 2013 Evil Dead delivered.
You know what? I agree. I really like the 2013 one.
Obviously, our rankings don't really reflect that. That does not mean that any of the movies in the franchise are bad ever. If we ever rank them and like one of them's lower on our list, that just means that they just can't surpass Ash. But this is probably the scariest movie that we've watched on the podcast so far. How do you feel about it?
Well, one, it's very scary. You know, as I mentioned in our spoiler-free review, like I was watching a lot of the movie between my fingers because this one, man, it is a hard watch.
It's there are parts that I was like, ugh, like.
Yeah, like off the bat, just want to mention there is glass eating, there's a cheese grater, there is a grinder. There's if you're a person that cringes at like broken ankles and stuff like that, you're gonna be cringing through this whole movie. Pro or con for you, whatever that is.
It's amazing. So I guess trigger warning is extreme body horror.
Very body horror. The most body horror I've ever seen in anything.
It's so good. It's so good. They really did so well.
Now, Geraldine, I enjoyed this movie. I think the cast is very interesting. I think we got a lot of good performances here. Would you agree?
Even the smaller characters, they all did very well.
Could you see yourself in this family unit? I
really could. I wrote that down, and I was like, this family seems really cool.
Yeah, you know what they do say? They're kind of like a broken family.
Broken family. We do find that out, but the mom is a tattoo artist. She's just casually dyeing her hair and doing like cool repairing on a tattoo gun. Mm-hmm. And her son Danny is playing music really loud in the house.
He's like a DJ.
Yeah. Her other daughter, Bridget, is preparing to go to a protest, and she's like, you're not going to this protest without a parent involved. And so she's supportive, but also has her boundaries. And then she has her youngest daughter, Cassie, who is building something called Stephanie, which I love Stephanie. Stephanie
really creepy
was really a character in its own. I want a Stephanie in my house.
It's terrifying.
So if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, then you shouldn't be here. If I'm being honest. But if you have seen it, Stephanie is a doll head on a stick with a scrunchie underneath.
Yeah.
And it's meant to scare away creepy things because Danny, her older brother, told her some scary stories, and so she's like, I need to scare away this scary thing. So,
what's the youngest sibling name?
Cassie.
Cassie makes me think of like what you would be like as like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old. Because the doll she makes it's a creepy doll head on a stick.
I never did that to my dolls ever, but I did own like miniature living dead dolls.
Oh, that's cute.
They sell them and they're usually about like this size. They have some from like movies like The Exorcist, The Nun, all kinds of different horror movies. But when I was little, I was like probably 5 or 6 years old. For Christmas, I asked for miniature living dead dolls. They're like that big. There was like a clown, a vampire, like a zombie girl.
So you were like already ruined from like 5 years old already.
Yeah.
Now, if I gotta say this, Geraldine, if I was a parent, and my child like had brought me this like decapitated doll's head on a stick, I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it.
You wouldn't be supportive of their endeavors?
have to get rid of the child. That's how a horror movie starts.
Get rid of the child.
The child is going to become possessed. There's something wrong with this child if they're bringing me a decapitated doll on a stick.
Little do you know, I've been possessed my whole life. No.
I can tell. I'm not surprised. It all lines up now.
No, I think it's really endearing that the mom is just so supportive and she just kind of lets her kids be themselves. And obviously, she and her sister are very much themselves. They both have their own like things going, and they're not traditional like jobs, you would say. And I like that.
They all have, they're all in creative fields. What's the sister's name?
Beth.
So Beth is like a music technician for live shows. And we kind of get the story that she is pregnant, that she, starts the movie off with a pregnancy test, and that's why she's going to visit her sister to talk to her about it. Her sister, though, isn't very, she calls her a groupie. She calls her a groupie,
which is demeaning to her title and what she actually does, because we get to see her also like working on like is it called soldering or soldering? I don't know what the term is. One with like the wire and doing the things with the wire.
I think it's called like heaty-uppy or something like that.
There's a term for it, and I don't know the term, but that's okay. So she's doing really cool like technical things and trying to fix things up as well. Yeah. Seems like both of the sisters have some of that background and that knowledge, which is really like a cool like skill set to have. I don't think that's a very common skill set.
It's really cool. In general, it's really cool to see, like, first of all, I got to say two things. One, these characters are the most depth any of the characters in Evil Dead have ever had.
Yes.
They all have personality. They all have interests, and you can really feel that scene from scene. Secondly, this movie is all about family.
Yeah.
As Dominic Toretto would say. And it's also like about siblings. We have two different generations of siblings here. And I'm just, we are both siblings, of course, not with each other. There's a big skin difference.
You need to tell me you're not my brother?
Now, do you relate to any of these like sibling dynamics between any of them?
Absolutely. Especially, okay, so Danny and Bridget, they fight a lot. I'm like that with my brother. We fight a lot in general. Love my brother. Could kill him sometimes.
Where do you think that comes from? Why do you guys fight so much?
We're just very different sometimes. I'm very loud and annoying. He does not like loud and annoying.
So you're self-admitting, like you think you're annoying.
I know. I walk around the house singing. Like, I mean, and that's totally not kosher for some people.
So does that make you the instigator here?
Not on purpose. It's not like I'm intentionally doing it to piss people off. I'm just being myself, and that pisses them off.
That's messed up.
The way that they are with Cassie, Bridget and Danny, they're both very like loving to Cassie. They're not mean to her at all. Yeah. That's how my sister was growing up with me and my brother.
Oh, that's sweet.
She kind of was like, she would pretend that we were her babies.
That's very sweet.
And I'm still very, very close to my sister. We don't really fight that often, but my brother and I still fight a lot. I love him lots, but sometimes I just want to, strangle him a little bit.
Yeah, and we get that between some of the characters. Bridget, love her name. Like,
her name.
I've never been like into Bridget, but they keep calling her Bridge throughout the movie.
You know what I found out about the names? All of these names are based on previous actors in the Evil Dead franchise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not notice. Like what?
Well, Bridget was Bridget Fonda. Bess, I don't remember. I think that was Linda in the first film. Okay. The one with the doll makeup.
Yeah.
Ellie was the girl who played Cheryl.
Oh.
I don't remember who Danny is, so forgive me for not remembering every actor's name in the franchise. And then Cassie, I also don't know Cassie.
That's interesting because you told us last time in the last episode that all the not the cast but the characters, their names all spelled out demon. Yeah. So that's interesting. I like the little Easter eggs they throw.
I love the Easter eggs. Also, it's written and directed by Lee Cronin. Very great movie. And then other actors' names that I don't know if I've mentioned. I don't even know if I've mentioned any of the actors' names. I'll just run through the list real quick. They all performed so well.
I agree.
So we have Alyssa Sutherland, Lily Sullivan, Gabrielle Eccles, Morgan Davies, Nell Fisher. I believe it's her first film ever. Billy Reynolds McCarthy, Ty Wano, Jaden Daniels, Mark Mitchinson, Mirabai Pease. Please forgive me if I forget how to say things or if I'm not saying it correctly. Richard Crouchley and Anna Marie Thomas. First movie set in the city. We do also get a cabin scene at the opening sequence. What did you think of that?
Okay. I got a lot to say about this, Geraldine, because this movie is easily the most cinematically interesting film in the Evil Dead franchise. And what I mean by that is that there is a lot of attention to like the photography, the changing in shots, the panning, and also stylistically editing the film. For me, especially, like a stunning image at the beginning of the movie is we have this really interesting long cabin scene, like typically we do in Evil Dead films, and the way we get a title card is by having the letters, the name of the movie, Evil Dead Rise over the mountains in the background while a demon is levitating out of the water. And that imagery, Geraldine, was just like I was blown away, if I'm being honest.
No, yeah, that was one of the best opening sequences I've ever seen.
Just
ever.
Bar none. Yeah, like in general.
Just incorporating the demon in the title card itself was just
Yeah.
genius.
It was amazing. I was like, this is cinema.
Yeah, I was like so excited. I was like, this is going to be fucking good.
What did you think about this whole intro sequence?
Well, this intro sequence, I don't remember the characters' names, so forgive me. But it's honestly like a very small opening sequence, but it leads. I love how the story ties together, because at the very end, we get to meet the character that is possessed in the very beginning of the movie. So it all ties together. It's very cool, because I was wondering how they're going to do that, because I was like, what? These characters are not who we're focusing on.
You know, this intro kind of has nothing to do with the movie, but it does set the tone. It does let you know like what's going on. I mean, like talking about cinematography, even the very first thing you see in the movie is that panning of you being in the eyes of the demon, like the spirit.
Yes,
going
POV.
through, and then having, all the intro credits run through that way.
It was so cool.
It was really cool, wasn't it? I feel like we don't really usually get that for Evil Dead, and I really appreciated it.
It was so fun. Honestly, it was just, I don't really have many bad things to say about this movie at all, which is so shocking for me, because I always have gripes.
Yeah, and this movie does something that you complain about the Scream franchise, where it's like usually these movies take place for the Scream like in a small city, and now we're in New York. You were very like, I don't know about that, guys.
Yeah.
This movie does the same thing. Usually it takes place in the cabin in the woods. This time it takes place in the city. You didn't have any...
I didn't have complaints about it. I didn't know how it was going to be, and I tried to like leave my judgments at the door when I walk in.
Do you think Scream prepped you for that a little bit?
A little bit. I think Scream did it really well, and I really enjoyed what they did with Scream 6, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be open about this. This is not in a cabin like we see. However, they showed a cabin in the trailer, so I was like, okay, well, we're still gonna get a cabin, so I'm not gonna be that upset, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's partly why they put it there.
Yeah, but it wasn't as I don't know. It's not a big deal. It wasn't that big of a deal that it wasn't there the whole time. But yeah.
Now, as far as the cast goes, I gotta mention two names in specific, like two characters, because I think they're the standout roles for me, and that's the mom. I mean, like
Ellie, yeah.
Her makeup,
oh my God.
Like just she was like, the actress was very committed to playing that character and really played it up like to the nines. And the other one is the youngest sibling, the little girl,
Cassie. She did amazing.
She's a little girl playing a little girl, and like when you're a young actor like that and you're able to give that caliber of a performance, I'm impressed, because I'm sure I
was so worried for her.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
This movie, when I went to go see it, I definitely felt like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's a family of 5, and there are some minor characters that get introduced. So I was thinking, oh, are they just going to kill off all the family? Like all the family's friends or whatever, and leave the family intact? Or because this is a movie about family. So I'm like, man, it's going to be rough. The mom's last words before she turns is, keep my family safe. So I'm like,
don't let it get my babies or something like that.
And so I'm like, oh wow, so are we not gonna? And especially their kids.
But like in the beginning, in the trailer, I didn't know the difference between Alyssa Sutherland playing Ellie and like the other Deadite that we get in the Evil Dead Rise opening sequence card, because they don't really show all of it. They just show like the tidbits. So I was like, oh, I guess we travel. So she's a traveling Deadite. But I also was like not assuming that other people would be turned. I was like, we'll see. I don't really know if they're going to do anything with it. But I knew this was the first Evil Dead containing children. And I was like, anything goes.
That is so, because when I'm used to like, if there's children, they're like safe.
Yeah.
But this movie does not care about that. This movie will go after anybody. And to the point where at the end of the movie, there's only 2 people that make it out of it.
God, it was so crazy. So the opening sequence, I don't remember the names of the people, but we get a brunette girl, a blonde girl, and her the blonde girl's boyfriend. The girl is reading a book on like the edge of like a dock, and then the blonde girl's boyfriend is being annoying and has like this weird drone, which we think it was a POV the whole time, but it was a POV of the drone, which is kind of really cool though. Still cool because you're like, oh, a demon's gonna get her.
Yeah.
So already you're like you have that built-in suspense as the movie has started. You're like, oh god, we're jumping in, but it's not like that. It kind of they leave you a little bit, so it's okay. But then we realize it's just the annoying boyfriend, and she's like, God, I don't want to be here. So then she goes and talks to her friend. Her friend's possessed, doesn't know it.
That's right. And this is kind of like we get to see this in like every Evil Dead movie, and we see it happen again in this movie where you see another person and you're just thinking there's something wrong with them, and then they just turn out to be possessed by a demon. I think this is really frightening too, because what ends up happening is after the friend checks up on the one on the bed, she falls over onto the ground. This is the thing where she starts reciting like what the other person is reading, like from the first Evil Dead movie.
Like, yes, exactly like the first Evil Dead movie, because Cheryl was doing that with the cards.
Yeah.
They were like, what card is this? And they were like lying to each other. And then Cheryl's like actually saying the actual cards.
Exactly, she knows. So I think that was a really good callback. But this ends up leading to when the dark-haired girl goes to check up on her, she turns around and rips her ponytail back, revealing, like, just taking off her scalp.
Literally, like, ripping off her scalp. Yeah. It was, like, terrifying. So then, of course, she's freaking out, runs away, kind of.
Yeah, she runs away up to the pier where the boyfriend is. And then he's like, oh, my God, what is happening to you? And then we see, like, the scalp fall on the dock. And then we see the possessed girlfriend walk up, grab the drone, like, get herself in the face, fall into the water, and then the boyfriend wants to go save her.
Yeah.
He gets decapitated underwater. The head gets thrown onto the pier, and then we get that amazing sequence.
The amazing opening title card. Yeah. And then here we are with Beth, and she's like, God, I'm pregnant. It sucks. Yeah. And she's like, I'm going to go visit my family. It's going to make me feel better. But we don't know, as the audience, that the sisters have not been in contact for a while.
That's right. I think, we eventually get all 5 of them in the house together. Mm-hmm. And they reveal the news that one of the dad is not in the picture anymore.
Yeah, he like left for another woman or something like that. It's like, it was like a really touchy subject because the sister didn't know. That's how far out of touch she's been. She brings a mug and she's like, oh, for your dad. And it's like a really funny like dad mug.
That's right.
And it's like
awful timing.
Yeah, awful timing because everyone's just kind of like all sad at the table.
Now, don't mean to be a downer, but I've been in this situation before where like I just don't know. And
yeah, I've done that too. Where I'm like, hey, how are you? And so, and they're like, oh, we broke up. I'm like, oh God.
It's difficult. It's sad. You don't know, which sometimes I wish you knew. Yeah. The worst one for me, and this is a downer, this one isn't funny, is that, I used to work at this restaurant and we had one of our servers was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And then like eventually a week went by and I was like, oh, she's been gone for like a month now, and she's back at work now. I want to ask her how the baby is. Well, I didn't know she miscarried.
Oh no.
And I just felt awful, like just completely awful for asking that question. And I've definitely since learned from that.
Oh God, yeah.
That you don't want to assume, you don't want to infer. That's a super common thing to happen.
And that's one of my biggest complaints. I never, growing up, like it was a little bit less known about. Like people didn't really talk about miscarriage as much, but now it's a little bit more talked about out in the open.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really interesting, because I love reality trash TV. I really do, and that's like a weird thing about me. And I watched Love Is Blind, season 4. Well, they just had a reunion, and one of the biggest gripes online is that Vanessa Lachey, who is the host at the reunion, kept asking and like poking, saying, I want the next Love Is Blind baby. Who's going to have the Love Is Blind baby? And then asking each couple who had moved forward with the marriage if they were going to have babies and when were they planning to have babies. And it's like, that you don't fucking do that.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok making fun of like some people because it was an am I the a-hole kind of question?
Yeah.
And it was like, am I the a-hole because my wedding is 9 months from now and somebody just told me that they got pregnant and I feel like they timed it to mess with my wedding. So they're the center of attention. And that's such a silly, like, come on. Like, it's not, people aren't trying to ruin your things by having babies.
Oh, man.
But the way they have the discussion is they send the kids away.
Yeah.
You know, to go get a pizza. And don't get me wrong, the pizza is eventually shown, and the pizza looks delicious, but they can't eat any of it because there's like an earthquake just occurred.
Yeah, terrifying like earthquake. I've not ever experienced an earthquake. Every time someone's like, "Oh, there's been an earthquake," and where we live, I've never felt it because I've been asleep or something, and I just thought it was like a loud truck going by or something. I was just like, "What?" Like,
I mean, it does sound like a scary thing, doesn't it?
yeah, but I've never experienced it, and I know that like obviously places that live on I think it's the coast or something, or well, the people who live by fault lines, obviously California being like the biggest fault line. I cannot imagine how scary that would be.
Right.
Because I've never gone through it.
I assume it's a lot like you're balancing on a surfboard that's on a lot of rocks, and then like Patrick is shaking the surfboard.
Good Lord, I would not survive that. I would literally fall and everything would topple all over me.
I'd break an ankle.
Yeah. Well, like right now.
And I'd also be very sad because I feel like I keep my cereal on top of my refrigerator.
Me too.
And I feel like it'd spill all over. And I love my cereal.
Me too. I just finished a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch this morning. I would be so upset.
Oh, I love Cinnamon Toast
CT Crunch.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It really is.
It has no business being that good either.
Honestly, a lot of my weight issues is because of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
CT Crunch, you got some splaining to do.
It's worth it.
So the pizza that they get, I don't know if you noticed it, it's another Easter egg to Evil Dead 2.
Oh, really?
Henrietta's Pizza.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
And it even had a little kind of like weird picture of Henrietta on there, but it didn't look as terrifying.
Now, you're a personal big fan of Henrietta.
I love Henrietta. She's one of my favorite villains. Yeah. She's terrifying. As a child, that was creepy to me.
And what does she say? Doesn't she have an iconic line?
I'll swallow your soul.
Yeah. But she doesn't say it like that.
I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul.
I feel like Henrietta's the kind of character that if you had the opportunity to portray,
that would be so fun. However, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I would much rather like sculpt her or something. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be really cool to sculpt her, and have other people, or maybe even like get into like making masks or something and make a cool mask and just have it as like a collectible item. That'd be kind of dope.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Or just make a bust of her. I don't know. She's just a really cool character.
Now, through this earthquake, it reveals a hole into the ground that Danny then goes inside to eventually find what is a bunch of vinyl and the Book of the Dead. Now, you would never catch me down in that hole.
Why would he do this? I don't understand.
Yeah, it kind of makes, like, I guess it makes sense for him. He's young, he's adventurous, you know. I would never go down in that hole.
He's kind of rebellious a little bit, too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he is. Bridget is a little more, you know, I don't know, just toned in, just focused, just reasonable, logical. It seems
like, I don't know if Bridget's the oldest sibling.
That's what it feels like to me.
It does feel like that.
But she does not have her driver's license, while Danny does.
Yeah, so maybe Danny is the oldest sibling.
Not sure. I still get Bridget vibes because some people don't pass their driver's license.
Or some people just don't want to drive because driving is terrifying, and it's one of the top killers of people. So yeah, because people don't pay attention sometimes. And it's scary.
And Bridge maybe just doesn't want to deal with that.
I don't blame her, especially in the city. It's kind of like weird though if they're in a city. Most of the time in big cities like that, you don't really have to drive most places.
Well, yeah. Where is this at? Do we know? Like, what city?
I don't know. I want to say it feels like New York, but I can't be too sure.
Right.
I'm also getting kind of Chicago vibes. I don't know.
Well, I've never been to either.
I've been to New York.
Yeah.
But not Chicago.
You're like New York and by heart. Yeah, New Yorker by heart.
No, I'm just a New York tourist.
Yeah, you're like a weeb but for New York.
Yeah, I am.
So this is how we get, that infamous scene in every one of these movies where the demon, the evil, is summoned somehow. It's through this vinyl that Danny plays. And I want to talk about this for a bit because they also find the book and we talk about the Necronomicon throughout these different movies and how it looks and what we think of it. What do you think about this?
So at first I was like, oh man, but then I saw that there was teeth on the side and I'm not going to lie, I liked this one.
So you were talking about in the last podcast that you weren't big a fan of Evil Dead 2013's Necronomicon because it didn't have a face or anything like that.
Didn't have a face or anything on it, but this one didn't need one, I don't think, because it made up for it with some of the drawings and stuff and the teeth, and it also still absorbed the blood as it touched it.
Now, I got a few things to say. One, this one looks like the most that is actually drawn in blood.
Yeah,
Like,
it does.
Everything
I agree.
is red.
Yeah.
Everything is red. And the pages, the sound effects even, the pages sound like they're sticky. And like they're like stuck to each other. And he couldn't open the book. You could only open the book after he got like a little, I guess, paper cut that, caused blood to drop on the book that you said, you said it absorbed. So I think it is really cool. I still don't think it's quite as iconic because we've seen like teeth on a book before, like in Harry Potter, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that book. I would love to own that book. I want like a monster book that actually is real because it's so cute.
That is real.
Yeah. I'd pet it. Just pet it.
You're a maniac. But through this vinyl that starts playing, we learn that this one has some religious undertones. Like somebody else found a book and they wanted their congregation to let them study it. They denied it, but they still looked into it anyway. Fun
fact, during this, I want to let you know, this is where we first hear Bruce Campbell's voice. And in the theater, I thought, is that Ash in the recording? Because they're talking to their congregation about it. And Bruce Campbell's voice, you hear, destroy it. It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason. And that would suggest, according to Lee Cronin, possibly, he kind of like nudges that it would suggest that maybe Ash has like gone back in time another time.
That's fun. That is fun. I like that a lot. I like the idea of Ash time traveling.
He's probably like, oh, not again.
Yeah.
That would be so. I just want more Bruce Campbell. That's really the only complaint that I have about this movie.
You keep wanting to see Bruce Campbell in the Evil Dead movies. And he's been gone for a couple now. You want to see his return?
I want to see his return.
Okay. Now, have we seen the box office of this film? And, it's been out for like how long now?
This is the opening weekend. This is the Sunday of the opening weekend.
Okay. I think we should take a look at the budget.
Wait, today's Monday. So Sunday was yesterday. LOL, my days are off.
I think we should take a look at the budget just because depending on that, we might get a sequel. And we might be able to see if like, we could see Bruce Campbell in a future film because we've had like 2 reboots now basically.
Right.
And Bruce Campbell was in the previous one, but he was only in the credits.
Right. And like he obviously went on to do the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show, which was a success. I'm assuming he's helped out with the video game that's coming out on April 26th, which is in 2 days.
Yeah,
There's
keeps
the
getting
Evil Dead
credited
video game
in every movie.
Yeah, he does. Another really fun tidbit is later there's a really grotesque scene where an eyeball gets bitten off someone's face. Apparently that audio behind that was the audio of Bruce Campbell eating an apple.
That's funny.
It is funny.
So
he's here.
There's a lot of body horror in this, and that's just
So
one
much.
example of it. Okay, so the box office of this movie, on a budget of $19 million, the movie has made in its opening weekend $40 million. So
Holy moly!
So it's already doubled its budget. So this movie is a profitable film, and that's in its first weekend. Evil Dead 2013, in its entire run against the box office of $17 million, made nearly $100 million in the box office.
The only thing that I see potentially being a problem is that they've waited 10 years.
They did wait a long time, which I wonder. It's probably because they had the TV show.
That's probably true.
So like they didn't want a movie come out during the TV show, and so it's a profitable franchise in that 2013 made 5 times the budget. Opening weekend alone on Evil Dead Rise doubled the budget, and that's just on like $40 million on its first weekend.
I have strong high hopes for this. I actually even plan on seeing it a second time in theaters with my father.
Because he's an Evil Dead fan.
He is an Evil Dead fan.
Right.
So I'm very excited. I'm so excited to see it a second time because the performances are just that good and the movie is that just amazing, honestly. So
yeah, I think it's worth a watch, and it's not a long movie. It's like I think it's only like an hour and a half.
Something like that, yeah. But it feels like you're in there forever in like a good way though. Like you're like I could just keep watching this.
I think a part of that, and I think we could mention, is that this movie isn't set in the cabin like the other ones are, but it is set in its location throughout the whole film.
Yes, it's like a single location, this same like apartment building. It's like an old apartment building.
That's right, yeah. And we kind of get 3 parts of the apartment building, and the apartment itself, the hallway, and then it's like parking area, like the bottom floor, the main floor.
And then the elevator.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's discuss that, because we do get a possession here after Danny, summons the evil.
We do.
And we get this through, like, again, a POV shot going through the streets of a city this time first time we've ever seen that, and it gets blown into the mom.
Ellie's face. Ellie's going downstairs to do laundry, even though she gets onto her children for using the elevator after an earthquake. She doesn't want to have to go all the way down. No, she's not doing laundry. She's bringing her husband's laundry out to the basement or something. I'm not entirely sure what her plan is to do there, but she's bringing her husband's laundry down there
laundry
to get rid of his clothes or something, which don't blame her. I would have hard feelings too. But because of that, she like griped on her kids about using the elevator after an earthquake, and then she does the same thing because she's like, I don't want to take the stairs. Totally valid. Get it. 1000%. But had she taken the stairs, would we have gotten the possession that we did? Maybe not.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the possession has to happen somehow.
Has to happen somehow. She gets knocked into the wall. Like, oh my God, I felt so bad for her.
We got, this is another tribute scene here about, like something wrapping you up and like, inanimate objects taking control of you in the wiring of the elevator.
So cool.
I thought it was really cool because like it really contorts her. It's that situation. The first one is around her neck like a noose. Mm-hmm. And then she tries to, balance herself throughout the elevator on other ropes, but then those start tying around her. Mm-hmm. So I think it's I thought it was a really good use for a lot of tension. A lot of tension. And you know what we didn't get this time? What is it, Jeremy?
We didn't get the sexual assault.
Which I think is the way to do it.
The way to do it. You don't have to just make it like air. Like it's an airborne kind of thing.
Yeah,
just
that works for me.
Breathe it in.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see that. I don't want to see people in distress like that. That's just too much for my kind eyes.
Kind eyes, wow. But she gets possessed, and now it takes her a minute though. She's still kind of struggling with it until she eventually passes.
They do something really weird with the elevator too, where it like shoots either up or something, goes all the way up, and then like that's kind of when it kind of falls apart and breaks a little bit.
Do you have a fear of elevators?
Not really, not particularly.
So you're like a natural with elevators? Yeah,
I don't care. I'm the kind of person that would scare people and jump in it.
Why?
I don't know. It's fun to scare people, dude.
You are the a-hole. Okay.
I didn't ask if I was. I know I am.
Escalators, where do you stand on those?
I love escalators. I do the elf thing. I stretch my legs out from the iconic movie Elf, when he does where he stretches his legs out like that.
I've heard there's more accidents on escalators than elevators. Have you ever seen, there's a Kevin Smith movie, Mallrats?
I've never seen that in my life.
In that film, that's a kid gets like sucked into the tip. You know how like at the very top?
Yeah. That's always been a big fear of mine. I always kind of like hopped over it. I'm always like,
I'm scared.
It gives me anxiety.
They both scare me. Elevators.
I never realized how much anxiety I had until I started getting older, and then looking back on it, I was like, oh, I think I was really like I had anxiety
for that. You were probably
an
anxious kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Your mom always trying to prank you, scare you,
Nah, she's fine.
Never looking around what's around the corner,
Yeah, that did happen, but it's fine. So yeah, after that, of course, Danny does all of this, by the way, in his room and plays the records, and he has headphones on, and then, he's doing this cool like DJ Spinny thing. Yeah. And then
that's really good. Can I get a little more?
But then like it starts playing loudly on the speakers, and I'm like, how would Bridget, of all people, not hear this and be like, what did I fucking tell you?
Yeah. I mean,
because Bridget, big sister Bridget, because we're assuming that she's got real big sister energy.
Yeah, definitely. And she, scolds Danny for like basically bringing this upon us. And like, this is very much you. Like, you have mentioned this several times that, why would you even take part in this?
Yeah.
This one I feel like is the most justified because Danny is a kid. And he's just curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Most justified.
The other ones that feel like they're adults and they're specifically told. I mean, the last one, do not read the words. If you do this, you're stupid.
Heed my warning. It's like, all right, flip. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But this one's the most justified, I think.
I mean, obviously, the plot wouldn't go anywhere if nobody read it, so I understand that. But it's also kind of like, why? But also, again, it makes more sense with it being a younger person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And this time he didn't read it. It was on a vinyl, and he even tried to stop it, but the vinyl wouldn't let him.
Yeah, that was that was scary. I was like, oh no, that's the first time.
Happen whether you like
that's
it or
the
not.
First time I've seen that happen in any of the movies too. So I was like, oh, this is different. It's just built different this time.
That's right. Do you want to talk about Demon Mommy?
Demon Mommy. Apparently it's trending. People are calling her Maggot Mommy.
Maggot Mommy.
Maggot Mommy. Alyssa Sutherland, you are Maggot Mommy, and we love Ellie. We also love Demon Ellie because she's fun.
Now, she, they go through a few scenes of like, is she dead? Is she not dead? The neighbors try to help out or whatever. Mm-hmm. They believe for a bit that she's okay. She just needs to be thrown into a cold bath. And she gets thrown into the cold bath, and she starts like, this is really when we see like the switch.
Oh, God.
This bath scene. The water starts boiling. I really like the visual of her like leaping towards the ceiling and like being like, it's like an Exorcist thing, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, you see it in like demon possessed movies, but not quite The Exorcist, because The Exorcist, she was bound to the bed.
Okay, I see. But it was a really good visual. It was really cool to see that.
It was very cool, and of course she does this like big scream, and she just looks terrifying. But before then, no, she comes home and they're like, Mom, and she goes to the kitchen, grabs a pan, turns on their like, it's like a really cool, it's like, I don't know what it's called, gas oven, gas stove, the one where and it's like the fire, because we don't have one like that. We have a modern one where it doesn't like have fire. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're blowing my mind right now.
I don't know what they're called, man.
That's what it is,
no,
a gas stove.
Yeah, but I mean, we have them at like my, because I work at a restaurant.
Because you're talking like you've never seen fire before.
I've never seen it like on like, I don't know, in a kitchen IRL, I guess. I've seen some of it.
It makes sense. Like we discussed before, you're from a small town, not a lot of people. Technology from a bigger city often
You're making me sound Amish, and I am not that. I have technology.
Right.
I have modern technology.
I'm proud of you.
It's like
come a long way.
A gas stove, right?
Yes.
Okay. Don't make me feel stupid. So turns it on really high. It feels like pops open like.
Yeah, she just kind of tosses the eggs in there.
Throws a pan in there, which is really funny because there's my boyfriend and I watched New Girl, and there's a scene in New Girl where I don't exactly remember what he says, but Winston, one of our favorite characters, he's eating eggs at someone's house, and he's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna say a name, Shelly, I love you, but there's shells all up in these eggs. And that's what Patrick and I were like giggling about, because we think of that because she's just throwing eggs in the pan.
Now, can we see your egg cracking technique? How would you crack an egg?
I crack it lightly, and then I crack it one time hard so that it like kind of gets in there, but not too cracked. And then I gently like pull it open.
And now, what's your success rate on no shells in the egg?
Let's see. Out of 4 eggs, maybe I have one tiny shell. One teeny tiny shell. So it's pretty solid.
I work at a restaurant, so I crack a lot of eggs, and I do them all one-handed.
I cannot.
I do a quick double tap, just 2 taps, and then I push in with these, and I pull out with my thumb, and it splits the shell out, and it drops the egg. However, the eggshell percentage isn't as good. It's like 80% of the time, no shell. So 20%, that's pretty. Often I will have to like dig through a shell. Now, do you mind?
What do you mean, do I mind? I don't want shells all up in my eggs.
That's an American thing.
Really? What do you mean?
In other countries, they eat the eggshell.
Are you for real?
Yeah, big in Africa specifically.
I've never in my life heard of this.
They'll make an egg sandwich, and the eggshell is in the sandwich.
I am flabbergasted. Why y'all want the shells? Why y'all want a crunchy egg sandwich?
You've never tried it?
I've never tried it. Maybe I will try it one day, and we'll see what happens. What if you're pranking me? Are you pranking me?
No, I'm not pranking you. This is going to be a Patreon goal. Guys, there's no Patreon.
We don't have one yet, but we want to have one. But there will be one.
And if we ever reach a certain Patreon goal, Geraldine will eat an egg shell sandwich.
I sure will. Wait, only eggshells?
Well, there'll be eggs in it as well.
Okay, I was like...
But anything else, there will be eggshells. That's the only...
If we also reach our Patreon goal, it'd be really cool to actually make you a solid mixed drink. But you don't
mixed drink.
Like no, like a really like a good mixed drink, because he has never drank before. I don't believe.
I'm not a drinker. And,
you don't have to drink all of it, but I just want you to have like at least one sip of a good drink.
Like, what would this happen? Like, would this be like I do that and then suddenly like I'm a maniac?
No,
I don't know what it's like
no,
to be drunk,
No, you don't have to be. I mean, my boyfriend's never been drunk.
Right.
And he loves himself a good margarita. And let me tell you, I'm a solid bartender. I'm pretty good at it. So
Oh, are you?
yes.
Now, this is a bit of a tangent, guys. But I am super into the idea of like when I have my own place, I want to have like a bunch of drinks. I want to have basically a little bar to host and just me know how to make everybody's favorite drinks. And
It's really a fun time. I mean, I feel like anybody can bartend.
yeah.
Yeah. But can anybody bartend well? It's kind of like Ratatouille. Anyone can cook. But then we don't like that, like they say like, yeah, anyone can, not that anyone should. But I mean, you just follow recipes.
What is a little 1 ounce, 2 ounce thing called?
I'm not saying it on here because you're gonna morph it or something and make it seem
I
like
don't know
I'm
what
saying
it's called.
JIGGER.
So like that's a Jiger?
Yep.
How do you say it?
I don't want to. I'm not
fair
going
enough.
to.
We're a consensual podcast here.
Listen, it's just I don't even like calling it that. I don't know why they wouldn't call it anything else.
Why don't you like it?
I don't know. I just call it like a 2 ounce shot or like a 1 ounce shot, like a full shot kind of thing. Like I don't call it by what it's called.
I also don't like the name because I was at home and my girlfriend's parents were explaining this to me and they were like, "Oh, do you know where the jigger is?" And I was like, "Whoa, it's 2023, fellas! I didn't know we were out here like that." But I guess that's just what it's called.
That is what it's called, and I don't understand why it's called that, but it is what it is, baby.
Yeah. That's something Ash would say.
Yes, it is. Bruce Campbell, look out. So yeah, Ellie then goes through all of this craziness, and actually before she turns, I don't know. My sequence of events, we just watched it. We haven't seen it.
It needs to be in order. We don't need to talk about it in order. It's fine.
So she is like dead, and the neighbors are there. I think one of the names is like Noah. I think that's the oldest one's names.
I don't think they're important at all whatsoever. They kind of hint at like there's like maybe like one of them has a crush on Bridget.
Yeah, it's cute.
They end up just being fodder. All the neighbors that they meet, they're just fodder.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it seems like it's kind of like a family unit, even there, because they all kind of know each other. They know like each other's lives, because one of the neighbors, I forget his name, but I guess it doesn't matter. He's the older gentleman, and the sister pops her head out of the door, and he's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Beth. I'm Ellie's sister." And he's like, "Oh yeah, the groupie."
Yeah.
Which is just so funny.
Do you have that relationship with your neighbors where like you're all a big family?
No, I am just too antisocial for that.
Which is funny because you're also nosy.
I am nosy. I'm a nosy neighbor, but I'm also like antisocial. But I'm also like social when I want to be. It's like I'm an introverted extrovert. Whenever I choose to be like extroverted, it's like a select group of people. And if I choose to like see you often or hang out often or do things with you, you're one of the lucky ones because I don't have the energy for that.
Fair enough. I don't think any of us do anymore.
My social battery, low.
But yeah, we do have a few neighbors, and that's the two kids. One of them seems to have a crush on Bridget. We have an not elderly, come on, just an older gentleman who is a little more like kind of mechanic. My tummy shows a little bit. I'm a bigger guy. I'm not in that shape. And I have a shotgun. And the opposite end of the spectrum, like a young, fit gentleman who even he's religious, he's Christian, offers to both help Ellie find her kids when they were lost and say a prayer for her when, she had passed.
Yeah, because Ellie passes before she, like, transformed into the Deadite kind of thing. Crazy, because, Beth is really upset, and she's like, I just want to hear your voice one last time. And then we get voicemails playing from Ellie on Beth's phone. And
that's right.
It was scary. I was like, oh, like these demons in this movie itself are far more powerful than anything we've gotten.
They're definitely more powerful. Now, let's discuss this. The demons in this movie compared to the demons in the other movies, Evil Dead films. I think these are the most powerful, and these do a really good job, I think, of being menacing. Because basically we have two different kinds of demons in the Evil Dead franchise, and that's the funny ones, the malicious jokers kind of fools, and then we have the just like disturbing, like also has fun with it, but in a far more menacing way.
Yeah.
And this one is one of the menacing ones, but I feel like they've been even more menacing before. Like in the first two Evil Dead films, I feel like they had a little more fun. But I do think this movie did a good job of saying a lot of, like, especially like Ellie, the mother, she had a lot of good lines.
She had a lot of great lines. That's why she's mad at mommy, because at one point the kids, like, she's in the bathtub after the whole boiling sequence, and Danny and Beth are kind of like on their like backwards, like looking at her like, Mom, and she like creepily puts her hands on the side of the tub and pulls her head out, and she's like, Mommy's with the maggots now.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's a
and
great
the voice effect is really good too.
Oh my God, she's so terrifying.
Yeah. Now, I think, we've all seen the movie, so we're not going to go over every detail, but I think what we should do is, how about we discuss like the characters and how they meet their demise. Now,
oh man,
like I said earlier, all the neighbors, they just become hallway fodder. Like, there's just one scene where like they all just die at the
that
end.
was hilarious, but also sad at the same time, especially because kids are not safe in this universe.
No, not even
remotely. But also, that's kind of, if we're going to be honest, the parallel to now in general, that's kind of a big thing now.
Kids aren't safe.
Kids in general aren't safe. And I think that, in the horror movie, obviously, horror movies are very good about hiding their, takes on things a lot of the time. But I think that's also a very interesting take.
You think that was a factor in the film?
I don't know. I don't think it was I don't know if it's on purpose, but to me, as an interpreter, I can see that being like, hey, life isn't fair and terrible things happen every day to adults, but also to children. So I think that's a very interesting point.
Before we get to the death conversation, I want to ask you, what do you think about that? Like, is that a controversial thing? Like killing kids in movies?
Go for it.
You say go for it.
Go for it. I mean, it's a reality.
Yeah, it's reality, and it's just a movie.
And it's sad. Obviously, same with animals. I don't like it when kids or animals die in movies, but there's no animal death in this movie, so.
There's a cat, but the cat is presumably fine.
Presumably fine. I was like, please, no, not the cat, not the cat, not the cat. Like, I was like, but everyone else, I was like, okay. Like, but like the hallway people all die. And just because they lock Ellie out, that was a fun scene. It was a different take on the cellar.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. It's very much like this person gets locked out while other things go on inside.
But I love the peephole shots where she's like in the peephole.
Yeah, and it's a fisheye.
Yeah.
There's just also one of the things that they do with this is there's a struggle between Cassie. She's the youngest, she's the most innocent, she's also the most naive, and she briefly opens the door for a bit because all she wants is her mom. Now, to discuss all the children and just all the deaths, we covered all the hallway neighbors. Now, the first person to really get attacked and hurt is Bridget.
Oh, man.
Now, Bridget is like, out of all the kids, Bridget's my favorite. I like Bridget a lot. I see myself in her in a lot of ways. But I went, like we should let everybody know, Geraldine, you and me went to go see this movie together.
Yeah.
At the theater. And I am a frequent bathroom user during films. So
yes.
I actually missed how Bridget got infected.
So Bridget gets infected because Ellie jumps on top of her because Ellie was trying to hurt Beth. And Bridget's like, Mom, stop. So then Mommy goes all the way over to Bridget, jumps on her, grabs her tattoo gun, and she like tattoos herself first, like pokes it in her head a little bit. That. And then she goes to poke it on Bridget, and she like goes for the eye, but then ends up going right underneath it, and it's like a small line. And just that alone is how she gets infected, I think, as well as being thrown up on, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, because when I came back, she started having like some what's the word? Well, first of all, her hair was wet, so that's probably the throw up, and then secondly, she had like these bruised lines across her face.
Oh yeah,
which I assume is her becoming a demon. And
they do like point back to the originals because like it starts like doing the thing
like
where
the spider webbing like we see on the doll from the first movie.
But her demise is that stuff starts like black blood basically starts pouring out of her ears, her eyes, her nose, and her mouth. And that's what happens. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, she ends up being one of the demons.
Yeah.
So we see all of these fellas end up being one of the demons. Danny doesn't seem like he's very confident. He seems like he's scared to the point where Cassie ends up being one of the ones that comfort him.
Yeah.
At some point.
But I think he's also feeling a sense of self-shame and like guilt because he did this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guilt that comes with it. Have you ever felt that way where like, oh, you're responsible like for somebody else's hurt when you didn't even intend to?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, humans do it all the time. Like we all make mistakes. So I mean, as
Everybody
a human,
makes mistakes.
Everybody has those days. Sorry, this is Hannah Montana. But I mean, I have done things. I mean, we've all done things, but like, of course, those things eat away at me because I will never forget it.
Live it down.
I will never live it down. I probably torment myself more than anybody does.
Right.
I have that self-torment where I will never forget it. And so Danny, I feel like, is doing this as well.
This is where we get that glass eating scene with Bridget, which is really hard to watch because not only is she eating glass, we've seen eating glass before, but when she swallows the glass, you see it like poking through her neck like it's about to rip through. It was
scary. I was like, ooh.
And she gets a good line here. I forgot what she says, but she has, why are you eating the glass? And it's because, do you know what it is, Cheryl?
Something like, I have bugs in my tummy. Or something about being in her tummy that she wanted to get rid of. I want to get rid of something in my tummy.
Oh.
And then she, like, because the demons poke around and they kind of know that Beth is pregnant.
Yes.
They can sense it in her. They toy around with her the whole movie, and it's so scary.
Yeah, see, that's another thing, like a controversial thing. Not only do we have kids, but we have a pregnant woman that they threatened several times. Not just her, but the unborn fetus inside her tummy.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably not very far along at all in the movie as well, like in the plot. But like at one point, Maggot Mommy Ellie, takes her long claws and like is like digging into Beth's stomach, and I was like, are they gonna go there? Are they gonna go there?
Yeah, they did not.
Ultimately, they did not. No. It was terrifying though.
Now Cassie ends up dismissing Bridget. Cassie and her little doll. What's it called?
Stephanie.
Stephanie comes to the rescue and impels Bridget.
Somehow it gets broken, and that's how it worked.
Oh.
Somehow it was like just a stick, just a plain stick, but somehow it gets broken
and made sharp.
And then Cassie is like scared, so she just holds it out, and dumb demon Bridget walks right into it.
Is able to pull it out, but eventually falls over and passes.
But it's like, damn, go Stephanie. Like Cassie, innovator. Love it.
That's right. And Beth ends up going back into the room after Bridget. Bridget is now wrapped up in plastic on a bed, tied up, and Ellie is outside. So Beth finds okay, so let's try to figure this out. I'm going to listen back to the vinyl to figure out what is going on. And the vinyl basically just says, there's nothing you could do, dog.
Which is... Yeah, that's basically it. But like in the originals, I mean, I guess this is a standalone film, so there's probably different things going on in this universe and whatnot too. But in the original, I mean, Annie recites passages to open that portal, and that does the time sucky thing. Why can't we get another one of those?
Oh God, that is so far out there. I don't know if we can do that. The only way we could do that, I think, is with Bruce Campbell.
We get to see Bruce Campbell again. That'd be really cool.
But unfortunately for her, Ellie found a way to get to her by crawling through the ceiling and all the air vents because she gets a cue that that's where the cat lives. So if the cat can get up there, why can't I? And Ellie goes through all the air vents and pops right into the room where Beth's in.
That was absolutely terrifying. And while this is happening, Danny and Cassie are, trying to keep watch kind of thing. They don't look at their backs at all because Bridget gets up. She ain't dead.
No, she's kind of she's like a ghost, with a blanket tossed over her. Basically.
And this is when Danny gets hurt.
How does Danny meet his end?
Bridget stabs him in the hand first, which that's a big thing right now in the horror movies. I mean, they did it in Scream 5 with Tara, stabbing straight through the hand.
Such a visceral thing. I feel like we can all kind of imagine it,
Yeah, I'm like, owie, that hurts my hand. just thinking about it. And then I can't remember exactly what happened. I think something happens and Danny does something with the fire.
Yeah, it's because Danny is being hurt over the oven, over the stove, and he gets like an aerosol can and sprays the fire on Bridget, and Bridget starts flailing around or whatever.
Yep. But before then, he gets stabbed again in the arm, like right here.
Yeah, look painful.
Look very painful. And it just doesn't bode well. I think he actually gets the vomit in the face. I don't think Bridget did. I think he gets the vomit in the face.
Is the vomit what kills him?
It's what turns him. It's like a transference or whatever. They do that a lot in horror movies. He gets
stabbed, doesn't he? Like through the chest or something?
He does get stabbed, but he also gets that vomit because then his face is like super red.
Yeah, that's right. And now we're down to just the two. We're just down to Beth and Cassie. And by this point, were you like, okay, these are our two survivors? Or are you like, I don't know if Beth is going to make it out of this?
Yeah. And this is when we get the baby scare where like Ellie is, pushing down on Beth's stomach with like her claws. Terrifying.
That's right.
And then she slides a knife, the one that was in Danny's arm, slides it to Beth. Beth stabs Ellie in the head. Does it kill does it kill Ellie? No, it does not, because it continues, because it gets worse.
Well, what it is, it's a pair of scissors.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, Cassie
up the nose.
Cassie slides a pair of scissors over to Beth that she then stabs right through Ellie's nose.
Painful.
It relieves her for a bit of that worry. So then they're able to try to go down the elevator and get out. Now, this is another blood scene where while they're going down in the elevator, it starts filling up with blood, just like the traditional Evil Dead way of doing things.
Before then, they're in the hallway and Beth is like, we're going to try to get to that escape kind of thing. So then she tries to like break apart that thing that Noah was doing before he got killed, because they all got by Ellie in the hallway. She ate Noah's eyeball and spit that eyeball into another kid's mouth. I wanted to literally gag and throw up at that moment. That actually got me good. I was like, like I could feel it.
Biting an eyeball is a lot. And then spitting into, biting into, that's just so much.
It really was a lot for me. That scene in particular, I was like, oh my God.
Could you imagine having somebody else's eyeball between your teeth and then just chomping down on that?
Kill me then. Just kill me then. Like, I can't. Oh, it's so gross. That poor kid. And then the little one, somehow, I think his arms get like ripped off. She just really goes ham on all these people.
Yeah.
Like really gets them all, even the old man. So all four of them dead in the hallway. But somehow Ellie gets free and she's coming after them. Same with Danny and Bridget. They're all there. So then all of these deadites are alive. And, Beth steals the gun from the old man. He has like almost like rigor mortis a little bit, where his hand is like still like tight on the gun. But she is able to free it somehow. And he's like he says something like awful to her. I can't remember what it was, but it was funny. Like some of their one-liners are just really funny.
There's a lot of good one-liners in this movie.
Yeah. They really like have a good balance of the dark humor and the scary. So it was just a good time. Yeah. But then somehow we didn't see it quite happen as they were going into the elevator. There's like a big morphing of the bodies.
Yeah, now this is a big thing. Like they're going down the elevator and blood starts pooling in there. Blood starts pooling in the numbers of the elevator. And, they're let out into this big wash flood of blood into the apartment. While upstairs in the hall, we see them kind of digging into the mom, and I'm like, what are they doing? Are they going to eat her? But
I thought that too.
We see a shot of the book flipping to a page with this very like amorphous, multi-limbed being, like humanoid thing.
It was terrifying.
And that's what they're turning themselves into, kind of like a six-legged spider compromising of three bodies, three heads, and all their limbs.
It was honestly, I've never seen anything like this in a movie. It was cool. It was crazy, cool, twisted. I wasn't expecting it at all.
It doesn't really get any more body horror than this.
No, not at all.
Joining different people together.
Yeah. And a second note, it was a big reference to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining with the elevator scene.
Okay.
With the blood pouring out. Beautifully shot. It looks very iconic. It's just an iconic scene anyway. But Yeah, then we're led to the garage, and I really thought someone's gonna die again. I assumed maybe Beth would die.
Beth and leave Cassie because she's the youngest.
Yeah.
Right. It would make sense, but what they end up deciding to do is have kind of like a more of a thriller scene, if I'm being honest. Just like a tense, edge of your seat, like going around the car silently.
Like looping the killer.
Yeah, looping the killer, yeah. And doing all these things, to just like quietly escape the monster. And what ends up happening is this is where we meet the grinder. Which I don't know if you've ever seen like the TikTok videos of. It's like this thing that like has rolls.
Yeah.
You can throw anything in. And I've seen these TikTok videos and I don't even like watching them.
Honestly, I play these video games called Viscera Cleanup Detail, and it's like you're cleaning up. It's like weird. It's like you're cleaning up crime scenes, but it's like dismembered bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you're technically supposed to do it, but I'm pretty sure that's the way you're supposed to do it. Is either you throw the body parts in the fire or you throw them in the grinder.
They have a grinder in there.
They have a grinder in that video game, and I use that grinder all the time.
You like the grinder?
It's fun.
Now, this is another one of the big shots in this movie is like how we're going to interact with this grinder. And at first it's like Beth that's struggling in this grinder, whether or not they're going to be shoved into it. But with the help of Cassie, we managed to get the monster in here. And now, this is the end of the film. There is a chainsaw. Now, I feel usually we get a red chainsaw. This chainsaw's yellow.
It's yellow, yes.
It's a yellow chainsaw. I think it's really cool. And she uses this chainsaw to push the monster into the grinder, as well as stab through the head of Ellie.
Yeah, because she's, they do the thing where they torment the person as well, and she's like, basically like, why would you kill me, sister, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But not exactly in those words. I can't remember because fresh on the mind. We've only seen it one time. When it comes out, I'm sure I'll be seeing it plenty because I love it so much. But she's like, you're not my sister, like. And she kills it.
And then just kicks it right into the grinder. So unfortunately, we won't see any more of Maggot Mommy.
No more Maggot Mommy, but we love her.
But I think her stay was very, big and welcomed and great villain.
Oh my God, yeah. And then the hero, like, poor Beth gets covered in blood. Like, we get the raining blood, like, as always anyway. So they're both covered in blood. Poor baby Cassie looks like a baby, like fresh out of the womb kind of thing. It's like that poor baby. She did so well in this movie.
I think so too. As a child actor, I mean, come on.
As a child actor and in horror, of course, too, because you want it to, appear real and stuff. I was like, man, I would love to, like, hopefully if they can keep her around, I would love to see her grow up and, fight Deadites too.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
That would be cool.
And that's how kind of the movie, or at least this part of the movie ends, is like them walking into the sunlight, basically, at the end of the road or whatever. One of those kind of shots. And then we finally see how the events of the beginning of the movie started, where somebody wakes up, goes downstairs, sees all this like mayhem that occurred, and then they breathe in whatever this demon entity is.
It's funny. Before that happens, she doesn't even notice the blood.
Well, I assume she's on a different hall.
Oh, yeah.
In the building.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like in the garage, like there's the blood from the grinder thing, and she doesn't even notice it until after. I wouldn't have
either. I think when you're walking, you're in your routine. You're just going, you're not really looking around. She's on the phone.
Maybe I'm just like a paranoid person. I'd be like, I don't know. I just try to.
Really? Do you feel like you are a noticer? Like if you go somebody else's house?
I look down. I look down when I walk. I don't look up. Because I like to, also because I'm clumsy and I don't want to step on things and fall.
And then you run right into a pole.
I've done that. I have really bad spatial awareness and I'll run into things when I walk a lot of the time and then I'm like, oh. But it's fine.
But that's how the movie ends, and we go back to, how the movie starts. It's kind of a circle, the film. And I liked the movie.
I loved the movie. I thought it was fantastic. And I mentioned this in our spoiler-free bit, but I also wanted to say it again just because I fully agree with what this person said. John Squires, or at Freddy in Space on Twitter, said that Evil Dead Rise is the kind of horror movie that reminds you why you love horror and to begin with, a relentless machine of terror, and it's true to the Evil Dead brand, but also we get a new hero and one of the best villains that we've gotten in this universe, Alyssa Sutherland. She does fantastic. I was terrified of her, but also enamored by her. I was like, she's just electrifying. Her performance was truly amazing.
Yeah.
But then they end it by saying there's truly nothing like Evil Dead. And I fully approve that message. And it's just, I'm so excited to see where the franchise goes in the future.
Me too, because I think we're going to get more movies. I think this movie's doing very well.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say, Geraldine, before we get to ranking these?
I think we should also rank villains now. I wrote down some of the villains' names.
Okay, hit me with all the villains.
Okay, we have Henrietta, Ellie, Cheryl, Mia, and the Captain Deadeye. But Mia obviously ends up turning into the hero at the end as well, but she was the villain at first.
Do you have your personal ranking?
I would say Henrietta, Ellie, because Henrietta is still really, really near and dear to me, but Ellie is fantastic.
Yeah.
She's not quite...
Maggot Mommy.
Yeah, Maggot Mommy is just great. I would say Mia, Captain Deadeye, and Cheryl last.
Okay, so my list is the same as yours, except Captain Deadeye over Mia. Come on. There's so much like charisma.
But there's not as much depth to it.
There's not as much Ash. Like, but Mia, I don't know, doesn't do much for me unless you include the like the evil Mia that ends up coming out of the ground or whatever that is.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand. Okay. Is Ash better than these heroes? You think still?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's just Ash carries so much charisma. He has to be fortunate that he had all the camp to go with him, like the chainsaw hand, like the boomstick, like the groovy. So because of that, I do think he's like the most iconic hero we've had.
So I think I would say Ash and then Beth and Cassie second, because I'm going to include Cassie because she was also a hero there. Final girls. What would you? And I would say Mia last.
For me, no. For me, it'd be Ash and Mia. I really like Mia. I feel like, the journey that she goes on.
I understand.
Beth and Cassie is just okay because while I like the characters themselves, they don't really have much of a relationship with each other, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but it's like the family aspect. I don't know. The family aspect really draws me in.
I get it, but I just know other iterations of the same kind of character relationship, like Mando and Grogu, or like The Last of Us between Joel and Ellie. I feel like those are a lot tighter to me than what we see in this between Beth and Cassie.
Okay, that's your opinion. I get it. So now on to the ranking.
Okay, Geraldine. Now, this is going to be crazy. Now, everybody knows this is our last episode of the Evil Dead season. How many movies are there? There's 6, am I correct?
5, actually.
Okay, there's 5 movies along the Evil Dead franchise, and we're going to rank them all in order. Now, who would you like to go first, me or you?
I'll go first. I don't care because I've thought about it a lot anyway. So my current ranking is Evil Dead 2 is number 1.
Oh, okay.
Evil Dead Rise is number 2.
What kind of nonsense is this?
Army of Darkness is number 3. Evil Dead 2013 is 4. And then The Evil Dead is number 5 for me.
I am shocked, everybody. I did not expect to come here today and hear that this movie was so good that it's the second favorite movie in the Evil Dead franchise.
It is. It's that good for me.
Wow. I am honestly, Geraldine, really surprised. Now, why is that?
It just did something different. I don't know. It had the perfect balance of the horror and the comedy for me. And the comedy was a little bit darker and more subtle, but if you paid attention and stuff and you listened to like the shit that the Deadite would say, it was good. It was solid. It was really funny. They tormented their victims a lot. But the way that they said the things was funny. The body horror on top of it was kind of physically comedic to me in some points. Especially like the eating the glass and it's like, oh, I'm getting the stuff out of my tummy. Like it's just funny. I don't know. So it just did something different that I was, and also because we get something different, I think that's what also made it the best to me.
Okay. I will give you my list now.
Okay.
Alarm. I've changed my list rankings from the last podcast.
Okay.
So things are in a different place now.
So this is what our current ranking is if you need to remember so that you know where to place it.
So previously, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2013, The Evil Dead last. Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
There's something.
I was trying to be like The Exorcist,
That's what it sounded like. No, I really enjoyed this film. I liked watching it. It's a good movie. I think it's the best cinematography. I think it's the most depth that we've ever seen in Evil Dead characters.
Yeah.
I think the big scenes of body horror are the most interesting and appalling ones that we've seen. I mean, that cheese grater, oh my gosh.
Terrifying.
So I think this movie hits on all cylinders, right?
Okay.
That being said,
Okay.
Geraldine, it also reminded me of what the charm that I like about the previous movies, where this one, like, I feel like tried to have a lot of heart that didn't connect with me.
Really?
Yes. and while I feel like this is a better made movie, it doesn't connect with me as much as previous films, specifically Evil Dead 2013, right? And it reminded me of Evil Dead 2013, and it reminded me of that long-haired blonde fella who, Eric, who had all these lines. It reminded me of Mia, the chainsaw scene. We both ended on a chainsaw kill, like between this movie, like just going into the grinder and chainsawing the head into and then kicking it, versus 2013's out in the woods, raining blood, also beautiful cinematography, and then slicing down through this evil deadite. Now, I love that so much that it reminded me of Evil Dead 2013, and it raised Evil Dead 2013's ranking by a lot for me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, go ahead.
So my new rankings, Geraldine, is Evil Dead 2, my number 1, followed by Evil Dead 2013.
Okay.
Followed by Army of Darkness at number 3.
Okay.
And then Evil Dead Rise, and at last, The Evil Dead.
Blasphemy. Just blasphemy.
I want to see anybody who's listening to this. We're going to post our rankings on our Instagram at Fright Pod. Now, I want you guys to see who you agree with more. So just quick rundown on both of ours. Like, I'll say mine, you'll say yours, Cheryl.
Okay.
Mine goes Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 2013, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead Rise, and then The Evil Dead.
And my ranking goes Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead Rise, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2013, and The Evil Dead. Now, I'm going to reiterate, this doesn't mean we think any of the movies are bad.
Well, I don't know. I think, Geraldine, something that people need to know is that there will come times where horror classic movies that people love, I'm not going to like.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to like it, but I'm reiterating my ranking that I love all the movies in the franchise. Yes. But I do think that The Evil Dead is probably my least favorite out of all of them. How
common do you think that is, where like the first movie is usually regarded very well?
Well,
and in this list, it's our last one.
Because Evil Dead 2 has a unique situation where they had to remake it because they didn't have the rights to it anymore. I think they were able to do it better, to do it again and to do it better.
I think you're right, yeah.
So I think, like, no shame to those actors. They're still beloved, and they still have a really big fan base. I don't know. I just really think that there's not a bad one at all. I think they're all fantastic.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've ranked all the films in the Evil Dead franchise. I want to see if you guys agree with either of us. We want to hear your personal rankings.
If you disagree, also tell us.
And we want to let you guys know about what's next for the podcast. And what it is, we're going to do some off-season episodes that include A Cabin in the Woods and this foreign film named Mr. Vampire, as well as getting ready to start a new season, Cheryl.
A new season? We'll be on season 3.
Season 3, a new movie franchise. And do you want to go ahead and let them know, or do you want to give them a tease? What do you think?
I'm going to try to make the sound. I'm going to tease it for you. I don't want to just say it.
All right.
But we'll have a post as well to let you know that it's coming. And I want you guys to also guess on there. But the only thing I can to do is that's all I got.
Well, there you have it, guys.
There you guys have it. See you next season.
Yep. Ah! Bye, guys.
That's it. Oh, bye. What? I thought that was... Why do I have to say bye too? I thought that was it.
See you next season.
See you next season. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Geraldine Johnson and Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa. Editing and music composition by Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa.